Hi, everyone. Welcome to Self-Care Sunday. So this morning, I am sitting on my cushion that I usually do my morning practice on with my stack of yoga mats behind me so that I can have something to lean into for today's practice. So I invite you, if you feel like you're in the time and the space, that you could find a place to lean into a wall or the back of a chair or the headboard of your bed to start to make your way there as you have time as we get started here. So, um, last week's video was a longer video about presence, and I'm going to follow up that video with a practice on being present and just a little bit of um, information or a little bit of just a reminder of the importance of being present. So, to get started, like we normally do, I'm going to invite you to just hit your pause button, take a moment to just slow down a bit, maybe stop what you're doing so you can listen to the sound of the bell. The bell is, or any sound that we start to put our attention on, is a great pathway, a great way to move into being present, even for just one moment. So, what presence invites us into is putting our attention fully on what's happening in the moment. And sometimes that's hard to do just in our regular everyday life. And so it can be helpful to have a particular point of focus, like a sound, like a bell or any other sound. Um, or, they're like focusing on a sensation, like the feeling of our breath, focusing on an anchor word or anchor phrase that we just keep returning to in our mind, focusing on something that we're looking at. I mentioned this in last week's video as well. There are lots of ways to have a focal point that helps us to be fully present. So we're going to start by listening to the bell like we normally do, and then we'll move into a short practice together. Just take a few moments to feel your breath. And I want to share a quote with you um, that I'm not sure, it doesn't necessarily have an author that I could find. Um, the great tragedy of the human condition is that we spend our lives running, rehearsal running for a future that never arrives, or litigating a past that cannot be changed. When you are anywhere but here, you are effectively a ghost in your own life, physically occupying space while your essence is scattered across timelines that don't actually exist. To be present is not just a wellness goal, it is a reclamation of your only true power. The moment you stop treating the now as a stepping stone to somewhere else is the moment you actually start living. Because peace isn't found at the end of a goal. It's found in the radical, quiet acceptance of the breath you are taking right now. So, a lot of times, and I might have mentioned this in last week's video, which was a longer video, we think of being present as a mental exercise. So, yes, the mind is involved because the brain, the mind is where it's how we create attentiveness and focus and awareness. We use parts of the brain to do that. But mindfulness and presence is actually a whole body experience, or whatever parts of the body that we can be aware of and feel into. Presence is actually noticing where your body is in space and focusing on that, settling on sensations in the body that remind you that you are here right now, and sensations of your breath that are reminding you that you are here right now, taking this breath. So a lot of times we think, oh, being present is just about the mind. And that is a part of it, because we have to use that awareness of the mind to be present in the body. But the body is actually what is present. It's here right now. The mind can do all kinds of space and time travel all the time. And we can actually, if we're only living in our head, never actually be fully aware of our presence or our sense of presence or the present moment, because we're thinking about the past, we're thinking about the future, and we rarely spend extended amount of time in like the actual present. So I found that one of the best ways to cultivate presence and be present and to practice presence is to feel the sensations of my body in the moment. This little practice is taking from several different places that I've practiced, different schools of thought, or kind of different little meditations or things that I've picked up on or practiced over the years. But most recently, some study with a somatic experiencing practitioner named Kathy Kane. Her website, I think, is somaticpractice.com or .org. But she has what she calls a down and back practice, or I like to think of it as back and down. It doesn't matter which one you do first. But this is why I like to have something behind me for this practice, because we're going to focus on the energy or the feeling of our body moving back and down, or down and back. And that can start to bring us into a more of a presence, a state of presence, and a state of feeling more settled in our bodies, which is going to help our nervous systems feel more safe and settled. That support creates a feeling of settledness and safeness, which can help us feel more at ease and more of a sense of peace. My kitty's joining me a little bit here. So, hi, Granite. All right, so take a moment to get settled in, whether you're laying on the floor. Laying on the floor is a great way to be for this, or sitting somewhere where you're sitting up, but something's behind your back. You could even do this standing and put something behind your back, like stand against a wall. And you're always welcome to have your eyes open or closed, whatever works for you. And I invite you to just take a few breaths that feel good to you. They could be deeper breaths. They could be just your regular way of breathing, and you're just noticing, breathing in and out. So then I invite you to feel the parts of your body that are touching whatever's behind you, the support behind you. So you may feel your shoulders or shoulder blades on the support behind you. It may be your mid back, it may be parts of your lower back, maybe the whole back of your torso, or just sections. So just notice. And what I invite you to do is to even press a little bit back into those spots where you feel contact with whatever's behind you, so you really get a sense of that support. You're pressing back just a little for a second or two, and then you can just relax and settle. And really allow yourself to be supported by the back of the chair. And feel that sense of support, like you're held, like the chair or the wall or whatever you're laying or sitting up against has got you. And then just allow your skin to soften in a sense of almost like a waterfall going down your back. Like the skin and the muscles and the tissues are just a little heavier and weighted. And it's like there's like soft, warm honey floating down your back toward your hips and the parts of your hips and thighs that are touching whatever you're sitting or lying on. And now put your attention in that part of the body and allow that part of the body to settle. And notice where and how you feel contact underneath that part of your body. You'll notice the parts that feel supported, where you feel contact, and the parts that maybe aren't contacting the chair or the floor or whatever it is you're sitting or lying on. And imagine that the pelvis gets heavy, like there's a bowling ball in your pelvis, and it just settles down like it's moving into soft mud or making that imprint in the sand that happens when we sit on the beach for a while. And just with your breath, especially with your exhales, allow that heaviness, that weightedness, that settledness to really be felt. You're supported by the chair and by the ground underneath you. And then, like that warm honey moving back toward the back of your thighs and down through your legs. Just take your awareness slowly down your legs, thighs, knees, calves, shins, all the way to your feet. And it doesn't matter how your feet are positioned, but allow whatever parts of the feet that are touching the floor to settle downward. And you can even press your feet into the floor or even wiggle your toes a little to really feel your feet. Maybe activating the feet just a little by pressing or wiggling or both. And then allow the feet to settle and relax down into the floor. Back and down. And staying in that sense of settledness and groundedness through your lower body, through your back and your lower body. Relax your shoulders. Your head's just floating on top. And then I invite you to feel your breath. Taking a few breaths in and out. Bringing your attention back to your body, to any parts of any parts of your body that you've touched into, that we've touched into today. And reminding yourself to allow yourself to be supported. Knowing that you can do any little wiggles or movements anytime you need to either remind you of a place or just to, sometimes when we start to get still and silent, if we're not used to that, it can feel a little uncomfortable and we may need a little wiggle or movement just to let some of that energy of unfamiliarity or impatience or boredom or anxiousness come up, and just kind of wiggle it out a little. And then imagine that bowling ball or that feeling of settling into sand, or just imagining that the support of gravity holding you. Take a few more breaths here. Letting your belly be soft, your shoulders relaxed. You, of course, are welcome to stay here as long as you want. I'm going to invite you, if you're ready, to start to wrap up this practice. You can take a slightly deeper breath. You can start to stretch and move and wiggle your arms, your legs, your feet. your torso, your body, move around however you'd like. And thank you, as always, for joining for today's Self Care Sunday. I will see you next time. And until then, take good care. Bye.